सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
If you permit me or forgive me, or if I can seek your indulgence to start this episode of Clutter with a comment or a well-rounded statement. And that comment is that at this moment, if I make a survey of our politics, just take a 360-degree view of our domestic politics, you cannot find any ism that defines it, not even secularism or communalism, and definitely not leftism, rightism, or centrism. What defines it? The one ism that defines all of it and that cuts across all other isms is populism. Now, the latest evidence of that is the central government. The central government, Modi government, now announcing a subsidy, a further subsidy of 200 rupees per LPG cylinder. Now, those who were recipients of the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala scheme, that was already scheme under which poor people, poor women were given free gas cylinders and connections. That basic subsidy, freebie had been withdrawn. The entire free ship had been withdrawn, but 200 rupees subsidy had continued. Now a further 200 rupees subsidy has been added for them. So for ordinary subscribers, you and I, if we had LPG cylinders in our homes, if we were buying those, what was 1100 something rupees, it price varies from state to state, will now become 900 something rupees. For Ujjwala subscribers, it will then become about 700. So Modi government has now also responded, has also joined in this race to the bottom in terms of trying to buy votes by using freebies and subsidies. They've thrown another 200 rupees per cylinder in the election campaign, because we know these elections are coming up, and we know that before this, BJP lost a couple of states, couple of important states. They lost Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka, and their LPG price was an issue. So BJP is now centrally matching up to that. Now, before I get into the larger fiscal and political aspect of it, also look at how this is going to be managed. The fact is that oil companies, oil pricing in India, the petroleum, LPG, kerosene, diesel, this pricing in India is very opaque, because it's a fallacy to say that this has been left to the companies and this pricing follows the market principles or follows the market. That is not the case. In fact, I will share with you a story that my colleague and our economics editor TCA Sharad Raghavan had done, showing exactly the opposite, that fuel prices usually remain very stable in the run-up to the elections, and immediately after elections, these tend to go up. So you can see his story. I'm sharing it with you. Also look at some graphics. Look at a couple of other graphics. See the graphics. This graphic tells you the profits that the oil marketing companies of Government of India made over the last many months. That is the Indian Oil Corporation, HPCL, BPCL. They made mega profits over the last many months because the global crude and gas prices had come down. So this price fall had not been passed on to the consumer, and that's how these companies had made sizable profits. Please look at this graphic. Now, the one presumption is that if this subsidy is now given out, these companies can absorb this. Now, if these companies are going to absorb the burden of a subsidy that's given by the government, that is really public sector companies which also have minority shareholders, have their boards actually underwriting the government's subsidy bill. The politics of it or the morality of it, we can argue about, because those are really very high level intellectual things. So we'll leave them aside. It's possible, however, that the government will underwrite this. In fact, I even heard on some TV channels that government will pay oil companies back for this subsidy. Last year, for example, Government of India had given in October last year 22,000 crores as a handout to oil marketing companies to compensate them for loss of profits, because they had not let the consumer diesel, petrol, kerosene, LPG prices go up as the global crude prices had gone up. So once again, it's the government which is still administering directly or indirectly prices of fuel in the country. And it is using those powers that the government has now announced a sizable subsidy for LPG consumers in the run-up to these state elections. In fact, just in time before the code of conduct kicks in, and good timing also, Raksha Bandhan. And that's what let our editorial writers see this 50-word edit that we've used, that look, you criticize others for reveries, other people's freebies for reveries. This is a case of your freebie is a reverie and my freebie is merely a Rakhi gift, right? So once again, coming back to the theme is that everybody today, all political parties, all political groups, all power groups in India have one ism in common. That's populism. Also look at this graphic on your screens. This talks about, this is the latest comparison of oil prices versus petrol and diesel prices. Because oil prices, crude oil prices had come down, oil companies kept on making mega profits. Now they've begun to rise again. They've begun to inch up again. In fact, if you just want to look at what's been happening with LPG prices in India are benchmarked to Saudi Aramco contract price, or Saudi CP as it's called. Our LPG is benchmarked to that. In March, the price was as high as $732 per ton. It came down to $385 in July. In August, it's gone up to $464, and it is moving in an upward direction. In spite of that, this subsidy has come in. This subsidy, the nature in which it has not come like oil companies are saying, look, we are making enough profits, we are cutting these prices. These have come like Modi government's Raksha Bandhan gift, Onam gift to the women of India. That done, please stay with me for a while I talk about the central government, Modi government and the BJP, and then we'll go to the rest also, because everybody is doing the same thing in our politics today. So I will take you back to something that Prime Minister Modi said while inaugurating the Nagpur Metro. That was about 8 months ago. And when he did that, we had in fact featured what he said in an episode of Cut the Clutter. That was episode 1130. This is 1301. 1130, and I will share a link with you. There he had said, look, what the opposition is doing, what many parties are doing, because he was reacting to the use of subsidies, very effective political use of subsidies by, say, Aam Aadmi Party, the Congress Party, and many others. In the South, for example, YSRCP in Andhra uses them very well. KCR uses them brilliantly. When I say brilliantly, that's not a value judgment. I only say this in terms of a political tactics. They do it brilliantly, and that is what Prime Minister Modi was referring to. So he said, this is a case of Amdani Athanni Kharcha Rupaiya. Athanni, I know today's generations will not know what Athanni is. In old days, a rupee was divided into 16 annas. 16 anna, so Athanni is what? 8 anna. That was half a rupee, right? 50 paisa equivalent before you went metric. So Amdani Athanni Kharcha Rupaiya is an old Hindi metaphor, and I'm sure other languages in our country also have parallels there. So you earn 50 paisa or you earn 8 annas, but you spend a rupee, you spend 16 annas. So you are guaranteed to go bankrupt. And he also said that this kind of freebie politics amounts to stealing money from the taxpayer and putting it in your own vote banks, etc., etc. Now, having said that, to now respond to this political environment right now, the political challenge as he sees from his opposition parties, so by resorting to the same tactics of in this case, unleashing a nationwide subsidy or freebie, I think you will choose one of the two depending on which side of the political divide you are on. But the fact is that he's responded to the same politics. Now, see his government and see his method. I'm staying with him for the moment. His own government, when he came to power, he was very critical of the UPA's management of the economy, and UPA's management of the economy under UPA 2 particularly, in fact, mostly UPA 2. UPA 1, the economy was not badly managed, quite well managed. UPA 2, the economy was very badly managed. Inflation was high. Because the inflation was high, that's why the rupee was weakening. Deficit was high. So when Mr. Modi took over power in 2013-14, and at the end of 2013-14, he took power. 13-14 financial year was over, but just a couple of months after that he took over power. So in the immediate preceding year, India's fiscal deficit was 4.5%, which was way above what the law requires. That is the FRBM Act. The law required it to be at 3% and no more. So it was 4.5%. And credit to him, he immediately addressed it. So in the first year under his watch, 14-15, although he did not govern for the entire year, but in the truncated period that he had, he brought down fiscal deficit to 4.1%. Next year for 15-16 to 3.9, then further down to 3.5, 3.5, 3.4. You can see it on your graphic. Now you are coming to your comfort level, and India's economy had begun to look very, very fiscally robust across the world, right? And there was acknowledgement of it globally as well. 2019-20, the deficit shoots up, and you can understand why. Because elections came in 2019, and that's when, besides other things, Rahul Gandhi also announced his Nyaya scheme that involved sending 6,000 rupees per month to a very large number of citizens. So Prime Minister Modi responded to it with PM Kisan, whereby also some money was sent to farmers and some other schemes as well. So the virtuous movement on the graph, which was downward, then got reversed in 2019-20. So 3.4 say it became 4.7. Then next year, it went out of control. It became 9.2%. But that is understandable because that was the first pandemic year which saw that great total lockdown all over the country. So the economy was shut down. So 2020-21, 9.2%. 2021-22, 6.7%. 22-23, slight bit of improvement, 6.4%. So even now, India's fiscal deficit is way beyond India's comfort level. This is really unhealthy fiscal deficit. And while the finance minister has promised to bring it down this year, the target is only 5.9%. But the fact is that this is the election year and we've already seen indications, particularly this new LPG subsidy is a clear indication that it's going to be a big struggle to meet this 5.9% target. That said, I will also tell you the adjectives that the Prime Minister had used in that speech in Nagpur to describe this policy or describe this politics. He said this hollows the economy. In his words, ye dishaheen. This is a directionless politics. Dishaheen rajniti, directionless politics. He also said it's kuniti, which means it's like an evil policy. Once again, the fact is that everybody is doing it and the BJP is also doing it. So because I started out by saying that populism is common to all, because all politics in India runs to one ideology. Let's also cut across party lines. Look at the Congress party. They made their big move with Karnataka. They won that election big time, but they announced these 5 big schemes or 5 big promises in Karnataka. The Grah Jyoti scheme, whereby 200 units of power will be given free to all. Second, Grah Lakshmi scheme, that is 2,000 rupees per month to the female head of a family. Every family holding a BPL card, an above poverty line ration card, or an Antyodaya card. That's a lot of families in Karnataka. They were all the women were to get rupees 2,000 per head. Annabhagya scheme, that brings 10 kg of rice per head for every below poverty line family. And when rice ultimately was not available because Food Corporation of India said they can't spare the rice, cash is being paid to these families instead, which is equivalent to the purchase price of this much rice. Then number 4 is Yuvanidhi scheme, where 3,000 rupees per month will be given to all unemployed graduates and 1,500 per month to all diploma holders for 2 years. This is for all unemployed graduates and diploma holders in the age group of 18 to 25. And 5th is Shakti free travel. So women can travel free in any bus anywhere in the state. You can go from any part of the state to any part of the state for free if you are a woman. All of this added up to a new subsidy bill, a fresh subsidy bill of 52,000 crores. This when the state already, by way of agriculture and other subsidies, the state already was spending 31,000 crores on the subsidy bill. Where will this money come from? All right. One thing you can say for Karnataka is that Karnataka still has a robust debt to GSDP ratio, so they can borrow a bit of money. Maybe they can borrow 7,000-8,000 crores, but it's a borrowing again on the state's account, and the state has to pay interest. But the state is already cutting its capital expenditure on irrigation. For example, irrigation has been cut by 21%. Lots of other capital expenditure has been cut. So once again, money is the same. Money is finite. Even if you borrow, money is the same. You will pick it from some place and spend it somewhere else. Where you are spending it, your objective is to buy votes. Since we are talking about the Congress party at this point, stay with me for a while we talk about other Congress states. The champion of them all, the champion of champions is Rajasthan and Ashok Gehlot. Ashok Gehlot now has announced a whole bunch of new schemes. In fact, if you see your newspapers, you see full-page advertisements, the maximum number is coming from Rajasthan government announcing new schemes. And let me just list some of the recent ones for you. This is by no means a definitive list. So June 1, for example, he announced 100 units of power free for all. Then he said 1.04 crore families, that is 1 crore 4 lakh families will all get Annapurna food packets every month. Now, what is Annapurna food packet and what is the scheme? The scheme is called Mukhyamantri Nishulk Annapurna packet. So the government will give you a bunch of foodstuffs free every month. This will add up to a cost of 4,500 crores, just this scheme. Look at the size of Rajasthan. The total budget of Rajasthan is 2,97,000 crores. That will have all their salaries, wages, interest, etc., 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 of which now they will take out another 4,500 crores for only this freebie. Then there is a scheme called Kalibai Bhil Medhavi Chhatra Scooty scheme. It's a 390 crore scheme. Sounds quite modest. 30,000 meritorious women, young women from economically weaker sections will be given free scooties under this scheme. Then Mukhyamantri Nishulk Krishi Bijli Yojana. Under this, farmers will get up to 2,000 units of power for free. Then Mukhyamantri Kamdhenu Pashu Bima Yojana. Under this scheme, every animal, every piece of cattle, every head of cattle that anybody has in the state will have a free insurance up to 40,000 rupees. This is only for cattle. This is not for your cats and dogs, only for cattle. But 40,000. But again, see how it's been named? It's been named Mukhyamantri Kamdhenu Pashu Bima Yojana. In our Hindu tradition, as you know, Kamdhenu is our most venerable, divinely endowed cow. So as I said earlier, it's not about secularism and communalism. It's about populism. Now let's look at some other political parties in state. We've already gone over the BJP at the center, and we've talked about the Congress party, but see some of the other states. For example, again, the champion of champions when it comes to freebies, the champion of champions so far is YSRCP in Andhra Pradesh. So YSRCP, or what stands for Yuvjana Shramika Raithu Congress Party. Raithu is farmer. Now, YSRCP has high impact schemes. For example, they have a scheme called Jaganama Amarodi scheme, in which they give 15,000 rupees direct cash transfer to parents, essentially mothers of children, for sending their children to school. Right? If you send your children to school or college, I give you this much money. Then there is 7,500 per month given to every farmer. These schemes in, again, not a very large state now, Andhra, and not a state endowed with a lot of industry and a lot of taxation, 27,541 crore per year. The response to that has now come from TDP, from Chandrababu Naidu's party, who, when he came to Delhi, also announced that he was going to promise a large number of freebies. Now, 6 big freebies for women, youth, farmers. Remember, his rival is called Yuvajana, that's youth, Shramik, that is workers, and Raithu, that's farmers party. So he's giving 6 big freebies to women, youth, and farmers. This includes free bus travel, 3,000 rupees unemployment allowance, 3 LPG cylinders free per household per year. That does much better than Mr. Modi's 200 extra rupees of subsidy. 1,500 rupees per woman. 1,500 rupees per woman every month. per woman in the age of 19 to 60 and 20,000 rupees per year for every farmer. So he's building his challenge to YSRCP exactly on the same basis, not on the basis of any political philosophy or any ism. Then again back to the BJP and see Madhya Pradesh. Now Madhya Pradesh, obviously BJP is panicked because they think that the freebie business worked for the Congress party in Karnataka and Himachal Pradesh. So Madhya Pradesh, again, it's raining schemes. And a lot of the schemes that we've seen lately in Madhya Pradesh are to do with women. These are generally schemes that fall under the Madhya Pradesh Ladli Behna Yojanas. Ladli Behna umbrella. So under the Ladli Behna umbrella, so every woman in the age group of 23 to 60 was promised 1,000 rupees just a few months back. It has now been raised in a very short time to 1,250 rupees. Again, because elections are coming in, it looks like Madhya Pradesh BJP government, the party is under pressure. Now in the month of Sawan, Sawan and Bhadon are the months of rains, although this year rains have been very disappointing, but it's been raining freebies. Monsoons may have failed us, but our politicians are not. So there is an Ujjwala cylinder Yojana, whereby everybody who's poor will get a gas cylinder for 450 rupees. This happened when the price was nearly 1,100. So state government said that you buy your cylinder, the woman buys her cylinder, and we'll pay our Ladli Behna back 600 rupees in her account. Now, another 200 subsidy has come from the center. So I presume that this 200 will be in addition to that 600. Then there is Gaon Ki Beti Yojana, Pratibha Kiran Yojana. All of these are now adding up. So for once, we find total consensus, not just consensus, but in fact, total unanimity in our politics. Everybody believes in the same thing. Everybody believes in freebies, which is translated in one word is populism. Does it work? Sometimes it works. It has worked for Aam Aadmi Party very well in Punjab, for example. It has worked for Aam Aadmi Party well in Delhi. It has worked for Congress Party. It worked for Mr. Modi in the national elections when he sent out his PM Kisan money and subsidized or then free food, grain, etc. But does it always work? So I will share with you the screenshot and I will share with you the whole article with the description. You can read that. This is an article in my occasional series, Writings on the Wall, which I mostly write when I travel through some part of the country or in the neighborhood during elections. So this is an installment of Writings on the Wall in that series that I wrote in 2013 during the Rajasthan election campaign. And please see the headline. And the headline is Writings on the Wall, Stumbling on Rewarinomics in the Land of Angrezi Dreams. So what I had found was, Ashok Gehlot then, he was the incumbent chief minister then as well. He was throwing a load of freebies at people, also because he got a bunch of new money. Oil had been found in Rajasthan, in Bardmer, and state government was getting a lot of royalties from that oil. So he was giving a lot of things free. That's the reason we said Rewarinomics, because Sonia and her NAC were big supporters of these subsidies. But again, we also saw that the impulse among people, and that's what we meant when we said Angrezi Dreams. They wanted modern education. They wanted white-collar jobs. They wanted to grow. They just didn't want subsidies to fill their bellies or to get some free power, etc. And what were the election results? That election result showed that just subsidies and freebies don't work because that Gehlot government had got wiped out. So once again, populism works, but populism is no silver bullet. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I would suggest that what determines whether it works or not is the underlying popular mood. So never discount that.